I'm a nerd. I have, if it walks like a duck. So I have 10 degrees, started school when I was 5, and I finished school in 2011. I will be 48 this year. So you do the calculus and figure that out. I'm a Reiki master, I teach martial arts, I'm a sign language interpreter, and I teach sign language related stuff. I'm an ordained interfaith minister, and ordained New Thought minister, and do a whole bunch of things. I've authored 2 books, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. But one of the things that I think makes me most interesting is that growing up, I was an abused child. I'm the youngest of 7 males. My mother had 7, well, my father had a child from a previous marriage, but I'm the youngest of 7. And everyone in my family did drugs, does drugs, made drugs, took pictures of drugs, sold pictures of drugs, or some kind of something with drugs. Everyone, on some level, shape, or form. And when it wasn't drugs like crack, because some of my brothers did crack and cocaine and heroin and stuff, then it was alcohol. Because my parents, they didn't do drugs, but they were alcoholics. So there was all of that. So I grew up as the youngest with a lot of verbal abuse and emotional abuse, and I hated myself and hated everything about me. And all the way up until roughly 28-ish, every night, part of my prayer would be, "Dear God, kill me in my sleep," because I didn't want to wake up and go through any more of this the next day. Interestingly enough, my prayer was actually answered. Wasn't answered the way I thought it was going to be answered, but I did die. That version of me actually did die so that I could become something new, like the whole Phoenix thing. Ashes and fire and then reborn. And I wasn't expecting that. When I was saying dead, I'm thinking box 6 feet under dead. But somewhere in there I found the secret of life, and it was through an odd series of circumstances. You know how people say when something happens 3 times, it's a wake-up call? So a friend of mine, the 2 of us were going to a used bookstore kind of thing. And we're walking through looking at the bargain books, and being a nerd, remember nerd, I love books. I love the smell of books. That's why I will never, I'm sorry for those of you who have these, I will never get a Nook, or I'm sorry. I can't do it. There's something about this. So I'm walking and I'm just touching them, just touching the books. And we're walking down this row, and the books, some aren't, evenly and neat. So I'm pushing some of them in and straightening out and just walking through, and I push one in and I walk, and something says glance, and I glance back, and the book is out again. So I go back, a little OCD. I go back to push the book in, and I look back, and it's out. And this is twice. So I go back, and I'm looking because I'm thinking someone on the other side, you know how in libraries, someone pushes the book from the other side, this one. So I'm looking, but it's a closed bookshelf, so there is no other side. So I push the book back in till it touches the back. And I look at it, and I start to walk. I get right at the end of the aisle, and I start to turn, and I hear, and I turn around and look, and the book is on the floor. So I said, okay, and I didn't, in my mind, the whole 3 thing, it wasn't there then, but something said the book fell. So I go pick the book up, and I actually look at the cover, and it was written by an Episcopal minister, Morton Kelsey, and it's called Reaching, The Journey to Fulfillment. It's a $2 book, so I go ahead and buy it. I read this book from cover to cover, forward and backwards, upside down. I devoured the book. I highlighted, over highlighting. And somewhere in there, it leads to another thing, and I end up getting to, if I'm not mistaken, it's either Napoleon Hill, someone's quote, might be Clement Stone, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." I'm like, yeah, whatever. But, being the nerd that I am, I held on to that. And through various circumstances, I realized that's the secret. Whatever happens in mind, and whatever I believe, is what transpires, what becomes the truth. So from then, I was able to go back and forgive everybody in my family for all of the abuse, because I no longer saw it as abuse. I saw it as this divine dance of, you slap me, there's a reason for it. I don't know what the reason for that is, and yes, it hurt. However, where I am now, I can see and I can forgive you because you didn't know any better. So I see God as you, in you, working through you for some higher purpose that I can work with. So that's basically my intro. Should I go get it?
Oh, yes.
So,
Superman jacket.
okay, so using that as the segue into today's message. So I'm a former public school teacher, so be prepared because this is an interactive process. At some point, you will be asked to answer questions or say something, so just be prepared. So there's a story of a king. It sort of illustrates the whole concept of Buddhism in Maya, the whole illusion. So there's the story of a king who, at some point in his life, forgets that he's a king. And he wakes up one morning or whatnot, and he goes out in the street, and he's now a beggar. And he goes about begging with his bowl, and he's begging, and he's begging, and he's begging. And yet, which one's the truth? Is he a king who forgot, who thinks he's a beggar? Or is he a beggar, because that's his experience right now, who doesn't realize he's a king? Or is it both? Because oftentimes we live in this odd paradox of, well, I see you, and you're not me, but you are me because we're both God. It's like that, So there's this interesting paradox that we have to learn how to dance through in life. And for me, the easiest way that I came to understanding it was, any science folks in here? Okay, I'll have at least one. Okay, so you have water, right? Now, what is the chemical compound of water? H2O. So, follow me for a second. H2O, let's say H2O is God. It's spirit, it's the all it is. From that chemical compound, we get water that we drink. We get snow. We get ice. We get steam. We get hail. We get sleet. We get a variety of things from the chemical compound of, right? The snowflake looks at the little hailstone and says, you're different than me. You're not what I am. But if you go back to what the essence of both of them actually are, is it not the same? So technically, isn't it the exact same for us? I see you as being different, but that's the whole concept of namaste. That which is divine in me sees and recognizes and honors that which is divine in you, which is the same thing. Okay, so quick question. Now here we go with the interactive part. I'm going to throw out some names, and I want you to tell me what these names, what these people represent for you. If I fill out the name and I say, no, it's February, so African American History Month, let's start there. Martin Luther King Jr., what comes to mind? Qualities, traits, attributes, kind of thing. What comes to mind? Peace.
Leadership.
Leadership.
Nonviolence.
Nonviolence. Okay.
Equality.
Equality.
Visionary.
Visionary. Mohandas K. Gandhi.
Peace.
Peace.
Serenity.
Serenity.
Nonviolence.
Nonviolence. Mother Teresa.
Healing.
Love.
Healing. Love.
Compassion. Peace.
Peace.
Yes.
What about...
Undying love for Mother
Huh?
Earth. I knew Mother Earth.
Let's go here for just a moment. Superman. You'll get why I'm going there for a moment. Superman. What comes to mind?
Strong.
Strong.
Kryptonite.
Kryptonite.
Oh, that's when it's being powerful.
That's to be powerful. Okay. What about Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha?
Compassion. Loving kindness.
Passion.
Loving kindness.
Loving kindness. Jesus.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness.
Sacrifice.
Sacrifice.
Love.
Love.
I did say badass.
Okay, that works. That works.
All of these people have great love.
Great love. Okay. You. When you look in the mirror, now let me 3 steps back. Iyanla Van Zandt recently, if I'm not mistaken, it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. That's when I saw it on Facebook. She posted this article talking about we shouldn't, or why we shouldn't compare ourselves to others. And this goes into that paradox thing that I was talking about before. Because on the one hand, our tendency is to, yeah, but he sings better than me, and then I'll somehow put myself down. Because that's what our culture and society, that's what it teaches us. It teaches us that the people that are on the pedestal, the Justin Biebers, the Beyoncés, the Oprah Winfreys, the whomever, that they're way up here and that we're not. We're wherever we are, but we're not famous. We're not rich, we're not famous, we're not as pretty as, or whatever. I mean, that's why magazines like Cosmopolitan or whatnot spend billions of dollars each year making sure that the models inside and on the cover of their magazines are airbrushed in just the right way to get each of us, this is actually on, to get each of us to buy their magazine, to buy into the illusion of not good enough, not pretty enough, not something enough. However, if we compare ourselves to people, concepts, traits, attributes in the right way, then we see that not only are we worthy, but we deserve it. Breathe that in for a second. Not only are we worthy of it, but we deserve it. So when we look in the mirror, because our tendency is to look in the mirror and we talk about what's not. It's like, oh man, look, another wrinkle, another gray hair, another something that, there's something that we tend to, on any given day, complain about. You know, it's when I was doing this whole New Thought ministerial thing, and you know, I'm reading about Charles and Myrtle Fillmore and unity and science of mind and divine science, I run across this Myrtle Fillmore quote where she says, "Never say anything that you don't want to see manifest in your life." Never say anything that you don't want to see manifest in your life. That's scary. Because that means while we are not Catholic here, I feel a moment of confession. There are times while driving, this co-passenger called road rage will every now and then rear its ugly head and complain about the person in front of you who didn't use a turn signal. But the moment I complain about it, I'm increasing the energy flow of calling more people. It's basically me putting a thing on top of the car saying, anyone who doesn't use a turn signal, come in front of me. If you don't use a turn signal, this is the car to get in front of, because I'm speaking about it. There's a song in New Thought, our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Always. Doesn't say, well, every once in a while, when you think it. Doesn't say, well, every 10th thought is a. Our thoughts are prayers. Scripture says, the Bible says, Jesus said, pray without ceasing. I used to think, how in the world? How is that possible? I mean, I'm supposed to, okay, so while eating, now I've got to say grace before eating. I got that down. But while eating, I don't get that. While shoveling snow, I didn't get the whole concept. How do I have a conversation with you if I'm supposed to be praying without, I didn't get the concept. Until every thought that goes through my mind is some form of energetic going out, calling forth into my experience. Wow, that's a lot of responsibility. And for those who do not know me, remember I told you, what did I call myself in the beginning?
A nerd.
Nerd. So, guess you can tell sort of what I'm interested in, right? So I got this whole superhero thing.
Clark.
So from Spider-Man, let me go 3 steps back, because this will make sense. Anybody in here know Alan Watts? Well, not personally, but Alan Watts, famous Zen philosopher, teacher. He tells a story about how one time he went to Japan and he was having tea at a meeting with a famous Zen philosopher, other teacher. And they somewhere in there got into a conversation about the translation of the old ancient Zen texts being translated for new folks. And the master says, "What for? Why translate them? There's no reason to. Because when you become at a level of understanding Zen there, you can pick up Alice in Wonderland, you can pick up the Bible, you can pick up, and he didn't say this, but based on what he's saying, Harry Potter, you can pick up any of these, the dictionary, and Zen is in it." That's an interesting concept, because that means philosophy, the concept of truth, is in everything. In everything and everywhere. Okay, so here I am, 7 years old. Remember I told you I was an abused child, so I'm 7 years old and I'm reading comic books. I'm reading Spider-Man and Superman and Batman. And, to a certain degree, I'm identifying with them. And a great part of me, because every now and then I look back on my past and I wonder if everybody in my inner circle, because it says you are an accumulation of the people in your inner circle, the people you are closest to, you sort of take on their traits and qualities, right? So I'm thinking, I grew up in this household with people who do drugs, sell drugs, make drugs, take pictures of drugs. You remember that. Why didn't I? Now, I did develop my own addictive behavior, because you throw a cookie on the ground, throw some chocolate cake on the ground and see what happens. Don't play with me, because I have my moments. Sugar, I have my things. So here I am, 7 years old, and I'm reading comic books. And a lot of the things in the comic books were about truth, justice, and peace. No matter what the Joker did, Batman didn't kill him. Well, so, great lesson that I got from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. Isn't it funny that that exact same thing is mentioned in the Bible? To whom much is given, much is required. I got that from Spider-Man. Okay, so I get this lesson. Grow up. Superman, in the new Man of Steel movie, he says, Lois Lane and he are having this conversation. Everybody see the movie? Okay. He and Lois Lane are having this conversation in the interrogation room, and she says, "So what's the S stand for?" And he says, is that what he said? Oh, I forgot. So he says, it's not, he says, where I'm from, it's not an S. It's the symbol for hope. It means hope. So, this, on the planet of Krypton, is the symbol for hope. And here we have the son of Krypton, Superman, Kal-El, here, representing hope. You ever wonder why there's such a plethora of superhero movies coming out? Or look at television and you find things like Sleepy Hollow, The Tomorrow People, The Witches of East End, and on and on and on. In one way, shape, or form, people, we, are desiring of change. The people in Hollywood, I don't think they realize it, but they're giving us what we want. They are flooding the airways with spirituality of some sort or another. You have Thor, just came out. Thor and the Dark World. And it's Thor fighting against darkness. Then there was, not long ago, last year, the new Star Trek, where they were doing the exact same thing, fighting against darkness. So if Spirit, as the Zen master told Alan Watts, truth runs in and through and interweaves in everything, when we take the time to sit back and say, well, what's the metaphysical meaning of? What's the metaphysical lesson in this movie? The movie you and Suzanne were just talking about, Her. Throughout all of these things, messages and lessons exist. How often do we go to the mirror and say how great we are? You know, some of us, we do affirmation work. You know, we'll affirm how great we are. But I mean, beyond just affirmation work. I'm talking about getting to the place where you know that you know that you know. Because there's a big difference between I'm saying it, right? Okay, talking about this whole archetype kind of thing, since this ties into the actual title of today's message. Anybody ever heard of this little girl named Dorothy? Okay, so I grew up watching this, and I used to watch it every year like everybody else did. Every Thanksgiving, it came on like clockwork. And I'm watching it and watching it and I'm watching it and I'm watching it. And, you know, it's sinking in, and, you know, at some point, might have been 14 or 15, maybe. Don't remember. But it clicked into my head, and I dismissed it, but it clicked into my head when she gets to the end, and she's in the balloon, and there's a cat, and Toto sees the cat, and Toto jumps out of the balloon and goes out of the basket and goes after the cat. So Dorothy's not going to be like, I'll get a new dog. She gets out of the basket to go after Toto. Well, Professor Marvel floats away because he doesn't have control over the basket or the balloon, so he's gone. So now she's got her dog, and she's like, what am I going to do now? Because she's thinking, I'm stuck. So then what happens? Miracle of miracles. There's a magic balloon, a little bubble. Ooh, and it grows, and it's Glenda. And Glenda says what to Dorothy? It's very profound. You had the power all along. So the Scarecrow, being, you know, the Scarecrow, well, why didn't you tell her this in the first place? If you knew this, the house lands, little curled up feet, you show up. You knew then. Why didn't you say something? Remember what Glenda tells her? Or tells him? She wouldn't have believed me then. She had to go through the journey to get to this point for me to tell you, you had the power all along. Now, that doesn't mean you had the power once you landed. Doesn't mean you had the power once you got the shoes. Because if you look, you had the power, not a power. You had the power all along. From the moment you were in Kansas, before you got here, you had the power. What does that mean, though? Because it's not about the shoes, as much as people want to make it about the shoes. It's not about the shoes. That was just another gimmicky thing, because think about it. You had to go through the journey to get here. But based upon your level of consciousness where you are now, you still think you need something to get home. So click your heels together 3 times and say there's no place like home. I don't know. Just make that up. Just do that and you'll get home. Because if I really tell you, all you have to do is say I'm home, you'll be like, whoa. It's not going to sink in. So let me give you something. Where in our lives do we curse and fuss at the wicked witch, not realizing that she's actually an angel in disguise helping us get to the end? Every time my mother called me ugly or stupid or whatever, every time one of my brothers came, I was 11 or 12 when one of my older brothers, who is now transitioned, has since transitioned, came to me with a pillowcase filled with money, dumped it out in front of me, took a gun from behind his head, put the gun to my head, and said, count it. If it's a penny off, you're dead. Hits me in the head with the gun and walks away. I counted and counted and counted and counted again. And I was in Legos, so I'm building stuff. And I was like, Legos can wait for a moment. I have more pressing issues at this moment right now. I got to count money. And I count and I count and I count and I count until I got 7 or 8 times the exact same amount. If it was off, I'm doing this again. I need to be sure. He came back, took the gun out again and said, how much was it? I gave him the number. He said, are you sure? He cocked the gun. Are you sure? Tears started to roll, and I said, yes. Closed my eyes, because I didn't know. He took the money and left. Now, because then, oh, I hated him. I hated him, and if somebody would have came up to me and said, you want to know voodoo? Yes. I already have his hair. Just tell me what tell me what I need to do. I was ready. I was ready. But now, hindsight's not 20/20. Hindsight's X-ray vision. Because when you have the opportunity to get to that place of, what does this really mean then? Everybody who has shown up in my life, every time that I thought it was one thing, it was actually something else. That's interesting. Okay, so this is going to become my little confessional box. So, confession. I'm a student at the Art Institute, 1985. A cousin through marriage who was at the time 10 kills his mother's boyfriend, and I'm there to see it. The mother and the boyfriend get into a fight. The boyfriend is getting ready to hit her. She raises her hand. He grabs that and rears back. So this arm is up because he's getting ready to punch. My cousin throws a knife that sticks the gentleman in his armpit, punctures his lung and his heart. Mom pulls it out and he bleeds to death on the way to the hospital. We're at the police station giving our statement and everything. And coroner's inquest comes up and we go. And because of what I said, I'm at fault. It got held over to trial because the prosecuting attorney said that I was, what's it called when you say one thing and you mean something else in court? Come on, legal folks. Not quite perjury. I mean, I was contradicting what I was saying. I was saying this, and then I would turn around, and in the second sentence, I would say something else. Now, what supposedly I said was that he threw the knife, and the knife stabbed the gentleman. And the prosecuting attorney was claiming that throw means hands off, stabbed means hands on. So because I said he threw and it stabbed, my story wasn't cohesive. So it got held over to trial. So my cousin's biological father was having me followed. So I'm at the library, hangout place for nerds, this is long before Starbucks. And I leave the library and I go home, this is long before cell phones, and I get a telephone call. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? You were at the library today. Click. I start to walk away. Ring, ring, ring. Hello? You took out 3 books. Click. Okay, so now I'm like, okay, whoa. It rings again, and they told me exactly what the names of the books were. Then later, I get phone calls, 3 o'clock in the morning, telling me that I went to the supermarket, told me what I bought and how much I paid and how much change was given back. Whoever this was following me had to be very close to know this. So I got terrified. So I go to my counselors and I tell them, I'm sorry for giving up. I can't do this school thing anymore. I'm moving to DC and live with my oldest brother till trial rolls around. They took this as a suicide threat. So counselor, administrative assistant, and the dean tackled me in the lobby of the Art Institute of Pittsburgh. I saw 3 white gentlemen and 1 brown-skinned gentleman, and I became the thief, which is fine. They call the police, and 7 police officers show up, and then it turns into this huge fight between 7 officers and me. So after I knocked the first 3 out, because remember I told you before, there's a little bit of martial arts in there, so I knocked the first 3 officers out, and my mind zoned. I didn't even see them as police officers. I saw them as, this man is having me followed. I don't know who you are. So we get into a fight, and long story short, I hear the click, which means, that's the sound of a holster. Someone is now taking their gun out here. So I give myself up. They asked the people at the Art Institute, what did he steal? Steal? He didn't steal anything. He wants to kill himself. Time out. time out, time out. Didn't steal anything, and at this present moment today, I don't want to kill myself either. I'm thinking escape. Didn't matter. They took me to Western Pennsylvania Psychiatric Institute. It took 9 days for me to convince them that I didn't want to kill myself today, at least. Didn't want to kill myself, and what was going on. Now, I say all of that to say that where I am today, looking back, I see how every single piece of all of that made me who I am today. All of it. I can look back and I can see what I was thinking. Harry Potter, spoiler alert, in Harry Potter there's a scene, I'm just throw that out there now because I don't know who saw the movie or read the book. People get mad and they want to stalk you. So there's a scene where Harry and Dumbledore are having a conversation, and Harry basically says, "Sir, I have a question." What are you laughing at? You laughing at my accent? That's not funny. That's not comedy. That's practice. So Harry says, "Sir, so is this all happening in my mind, or is it really happening?" To which Dumbledore said, "Silly child, what's the difference?" Basically, he says, what's the difference? There's no difference. What happens in mind, there's this thing, anybody in here ever go from this side to, like, say, California or Hawaii or Colombia? How did you get there? Flew. In a plane. Do you understand that it's a huge device made of metal, and it shouldn't move off, it shouldn't do what it's doing. But these two brothers one day sat down and said, "Hey, Wilbur, look, the Anderson family out there again with the wings. They're, look, let's all, oh, I wish we had a cell phone to put this on Instagram right now." They're watching all these people jump off cliffs and ride bikes and try to fly, and they decide, we're going to do this. They have this vision. Now, how many people, based upon what they created, fly every day? They saw it in mind first. Genius called Einstein comes up with this theory called E equals mc squared, theory of relativity. Shows it to his colleagues, and they're, what is this? And they laugh at it. Especially when he tells them where it came from. So I had this dream that I was riding on this star at the speed of light, and they're like, ow. It took about 20 years till physicists were then able to go back and say, whoa, wait a minute, this actually makes sense. Look at, he had a vision 20 years prior to them saying that it was so. Imagine what could be possible right here, right now, if all of us let go of our doubts, let go of whatever pain and baggage and blinders and whatever there is that's holding us back, holding us down, making us feel less than, not good enough, not worthy, because that's a big one. Because remember what I said earlier? It's not just that, it's that we deserve. Because that was one of my biggest complaints with my oldest brother is, my mother refers to us as her bookends. My oldest brother is a Christian minister from the Pat Robertson School of Christian Torture. Sorry. Because Pat Robertson comes out his mouth with some stuff that I'm thinking, oh, that's interesting. Be blessed, my brother, be blessed. Namaste. Because you don't know, so I'm going to know for you. So, I grew up in a traditional Baptist household, and one of my biggest complaints used to be, if we say that God is what we say God is, and that we take the lessons of Jesus, we should feel a whole lot better than we do. Why do we feel so bad, and why do we make other people feel so bad? If the entire lesson is love, and love thy brother and sister as yourself. Ding, 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 there's the problem. We don't love ourselves. How can I love somebody else if I don't love me? So, if we take a moment, and I don't know if you've noticed, I got a couple of tattoos.
One of the things I have tattooed right here on throat chakra is the Hebrew name of God, Yod He Vav He. I am that I am. And just for a moment as I end, I want us to take a moment and say, I'm going to throw out, like we started, traits and qualities. And what I want you to do is breathe it in and then say, I am that. I am. For example, not peaceful, but peace itself. Because if if Spirit, God, universal presence, is moving in us, through us, with us, as us, and for us. Because, God is a circle whose circumference is nowhere, whose center is everywhere. There is nowhere that God is not. Right? So it's not just that I'm peaceful, but if God is moving in me, as me, through me, from me, then I am peace. I don't often plug into that and affirm that, but I am. So, I'll say it, breathe it in, then I am that. I am. Peace. I am that. Rewind, take two. I'll say it, peace. You'll say it, then I am that. I am. Peace.
Peace. I am that I am.
And I want you to get where that's going. I am that. Because remember, those are two most powerful words. Two of the most powerful words. I am that. And then you're reaffirming it. I am. Love.
Love. I am that I am.
Divine.
Divine. I am that I am.
Awake.
Awake. I am that I am.
Worthy.
Worthy. I am that I am.
And not just worthy. Let's be, I am worth itself.
Worth itself. I am that I am.
So in that place, where you are right now, that place of realizing and knowing that all that I desire to be, do, and have, I already am. If you can conceive it in mind, and not just believe it, but know it. Know the truth of what it is. Whatever a mind can conceive and believe can achieve. Inhale and let it out. Together in this one place, gathered together in one mind, joined together in one consciousness. We know, we affirm, we decree and declare that everyone whom we see and everyone who sees us sees God. Everyone whom we hear and everyone who hears us hears God. Everyone whom we touch or who touches us is touching God. For there is nowhere that God is not. Every supposed enemy is merely an angel in disguise, a soulmate to help us along the journey of awakening, the journey of transformation and transmutation. It is said that in order for a diamond to become the valued gem that it is, it must go through a great deal of heat and pressure. Each of our lives have had some form of heat and pressure. The resistance is gone. The doubt is gone. We welcome we forgive, knowing that on some level there is nothing to even forgive. Each day we awaken knowing in full faith, full belief, full certainty. I am that I am. All that I desire to be, do, and have is already manifesting. It is already here. If I can see it in my mind, then it already exists. It merely needs to manifest in the physical. Awake and aware. Gratefully we know. Gratefully we affirm. Gratefully we meet and greet each day and each person, knowing that it is already done, it is already so. And so it is.